Okay, so in our last video, we talked about how to pseudocode this out. Now let's talk about how do we actually write it in Python. So most of this is pretty much Python. We haven't really done a whole lot of crazy stuff here that's really too hard to translate. But there was one method that we didn't really discuss how to do it here. How are we going to actually swap the value in index 1 with index 2? The second index. All right, let's figure this out. So swap the value in index 1 with index 2. That feels like a separate problem to me, so I'm going to write a function, def swap in place. I'm going to bring in like a first index, like, you know, num1 or like index 1 idx1, idx2. And then what I'm actually going to pass in is the list itself. So input list. Now, you might have seen this before. You might remember that basically in order to swap things, if you're just trying to swap two numbers in two different variables, that's one thing. But in a list, you want to swap things in place, you have to pass in the actual list. Because in Python, these elements, because they're numbers, and numbers are technically immutable, and so if you operate on a numerical variable, you're really just getting rid of the old value and creating a new value. Same thing with strings. But with lists and objects and dictionaries and any other complex data structure, you're passing in by reference. And so in order to change where values are in a list, you're going to have to pass in that list by reference. So swap in place is how we're going to pass in index plus 1, and nums. That's how we're going to solve that problem. Okay, so let's make sure, yeah. Oh, we need one more paren here. Cool, now it's real. So let's talk about swap in place. How are we going to actually do that? I have this one method that I really like to do that is a fast way of doing it. So input list at idx1 is input list at idx1 plus input list at idx2. Then basically the same thing 3 times, only we're operating on idx2 here, and then we're actually going to say that it's idx1 minus idx2. And then for idx1 it's plus again, or no, sorry, it's minus. And so how do we actually test this? Well, let's write ourselves a function. I'm going to comment this function out so that no problems occur, and then we're going to test it. So test data is an array with 15 and 25, and then we're going to call swap in place on it. Swap in place wants 2 indices, so 0 and 1, and then it wants the list itself. It doesn't return anything, it just swaps. So let's print the list test data, and so it should be 25, 15 if we did it right. All right, we got 25 and 15. So it looks like our swap in place works. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this example. And now uncomment this. Now let's see if this works and debug it if it doesn't. All right, let's run some tests. So it looks like our trivial problem didn't work because list index is out of range. So anytime you're adding 1 to an index where you want to like check that index, and you're just sort of doing it bare here like this, you're not checking to see if it's already out of range. A lot of times that means that you need to, let's look at the value, right, that you're passing in. So the length of nums is, you know, if there's 5 elements in the array, it's going to be 5. But there's no list index 5. Also, we want to stop right before the end. We're comparing the end already with this element when we get to the last but one index. So we actually need to subtract 2 from this so that we only go up to the very last index, and we'll already compare it here in this if statement. So now let's run these tests. Okay. Now it looks like 11 doesn't equal 16. So that's the number of swaps. So either we're getting the wrong number of swaps, which is possible. So let's kind of look at this. So yeah, let's pull it up into Python Tutor anytime, you know, we've got like a weird error like that. And then, yeah, let's check it out. Okay, so let's visualize this execution. What are we getting? All right. Oh, we never called it. So let's figure this out. Let's add a call to it, bubble sort swaps, and you know, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So totally really unsorted list. So let's visualize the execution of this. Okay. So all right, so we're gonna watch this go through. Okay, 4 and 5 got swapped, and that's 1 swap. Cool. So now there's 2 swaps. Okay, we're gonna see these swaps keep going. Okay. All right, so it looks like we didn't actually sort the list. 1 didn't get looked at. So, and I think that's because I didn't actually loop over all the way. I realize now I just need to do -1. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just put that back in here and see if that runs. So let's run that. Okay, cool, doesn't break. Let's run these tests. Hey, it looks like it worked out. Oh, that's what it is. I always forget that the range is not inclusive of this number. So you have to do only -1. So that's how that works. Cool. So that's bubble sort.